welcome to our safety meeting. There's some new things that you need to know about it, and they're pretty good developments for the drivers. If you guys that have been here for a while, if you remember, we used to have quarterly safety bonuses, and then a few years ago we lost those. Well, we're getting them back starting the first quarter of this year. So right now we're getting those safety bonuses back. The safety director, Elaine DeCam, she's worked long and hard to get those safety bonuses back, and we do have them back. It says, we're happy to announce a new safety bonus program for 2013. Every driver has the potential to earn a maximum of $150 per quarter. Safety meeting attendance or watching the video during the current quarter is required. See the separate safety bonus criteria document for full details on how to earn your bonus. And so here's the criteria for your safety bonus. The bonus will be paid quarterly. Each quarter begins with a clean slate. The first quarter will end March 31st. The second quarter will end June 30th. Third quarter will end September 30th. The fourth quarter will end December 31st. The bonus will be paid in the latter part of the month following the bonus period. Okay, the amount of the bonus is your gross wages for the quarter times 0.02 with a $150 cap. Now your gross wages for the quarter will need to be at least $7,500 to obtain the cap. What that means is if you gross $7,500 during that quarter, then you're going to get the maximum, which is $150. So in this way, each driver will be compensated fairly for the amount of work that he or she does. So whereas if a part-time driver doesn't drive that many miles, or they're going to get slightly less than the full-time drivers. Okay, here's your eligibility. You have to be a current qualified driver with a current driving status. If you quit during the bonus period, then you lose your bonus. Okay, all your DOT qualifications must be current. That means your CDL has to be current, your physical has to be current, and you have to get your annual review in. Okay, accounts receivable have to be clear. All your trip paperwork has to be turned in and up to date. If you're missing some of your trip paperwork that they've been maybe trying to get a bill of lading or something from you, you'll have to make sure you get all that trip paperwork up to date. You can't have any preventable accidents or incidents during that quarter. You can't have any CSA driver violations, and those would include warnings. You can't have been suspended from the law department during that current bonus period. And then you have to attend the safety meetings in that current quarter. And as Bob was saying, there's some good news on that front too. Now if you can attend the live meeting, you know we always videotape a meeting, but now you can go to the WDT website. If you look all the way down on that left side, you'll see a tab that says Safety Meetings. You can go on there and click that, and you can watch the video on there, and then there'll be a little quiz of about 4 or 5 questions to answer to show that you've watched the video. You simply answer those questions and then click Submit, and it will send an email to the safety department, and it'll show that you watched the video, so you'll get credit for watching that video. Now what we're here today to talk about is the new law regulations that are going to be going in effect on July 1st of 2013, that's year. And they passed those regulations last year, but they made the effective date of July 1st, 2013, and there's no grace period on those regulations. From the July 1st on, you'll be required to operate under those new regulations. And that's why we're having this first quarter safety meeting, to kind of go over these regulations with you to get you ready for them. And it's required. that all the drivers are going to have to go through this training before July 1st so that they know. Now, I know a lot of you are on e-logs, but some of you still do paper logs. This would be a really good opportunity, if you're not doing e-logs, this would really be a good opportunity to get on e-logs, because it'll make it a lot easier to deal with these with this transition of these new regulations. Okay, remember that if you get any level DOT inspection, if you don't get any violations, remember you get $20 for those inspections, but you've got to call them in. And don't forget, guys, that we have a recruiting bonus. If you recommend a driver, as soon as they go through orientation, you get $100. And if they're still here in 6 months, you get $400 more. So that's a chance to make an extra $500 in just 6 month period. And we've already had some drivers that have done that 2 or 3 times. So it's a way to earn extra money by referring people. So I'm going to introduce you now to Andrea Curry. She's the head of our compliance department. And she's going to go over the new regulations so you can get an understanding of it.
Morning. Okay, you'll need your little pamphlet they gave you. We're going to go over the changes to the hours of service. Okay, the first thing we're going to discuss is the 34-hour restart change. After July 1st, 2013, there's going to be 2 requirements. It must include 2 periods between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m., and it can be only used once per week. And that'll be the 2 changes that you will have to remember when you're doing your 34-hour reset. The other change is what they call a rest break. You may drive only if 8 hours or less have passed since end of driver's last off-duty period of at least 30 minutes. So we'll go a little bit more over everything here. Okay, limitations on the 34-hour restarts. Beginning July 1st, 2013, there are 2 major restrictions on using the 34-hour restart. It can only be used once per 168 hours. This means you cannot start your next restart break until 168 hours since the start of your last restart break, which would be once per week. For example, if your last restart began at 7 p.m. on Thursday, you cannot start your next break until 7 p.m. the following Thursday, even if you run out of hours before then. Does this mean you can't go off duty until 7 p.m. Thursday? No, you can still go off duty. You can start your break whenever you want to, but the time you want to claim as your restart cannot begin until 168 hours has passed since the beginning of your last restart period. 7 p.m. Thursday in this example. And this is a little example on the restart. On this example here, there's a violation because the driver did his restart before he was allowed to, before the 168 hours was up. So that would give him a violation. He would not have a valid restart. And the next example is the correct way. He did it on Saturday and Sunday, and then the next Saturday, Sunday, he did it. So that would be once per week, the 168 hours. Keep in mind, one 34-hour restart period per 168 hours, 7 days. So you only get to use it once per week. Okay, the next limitation. Your restart break must include 2 back-to-back nighttime rest periods from between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. practical terms, this means that in many cases, you will need more than 34 hours off to reset your hours. For example, staying off duty from 7 p.m. on Friday until 5 a.m. on Sunday is a valid restart. It includes the period of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. on Saturday morning and again on Sunday morning, and it is at least 34 hours long. However, a break from 2 a.m. on Saturday until 4 a.m. on Monday, 50 hours, is not a valid restart. It only includes one period of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. So sometimes you might sit there longer than you really need to. So you got to remember it's got to include 2 periods of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. This means there's a limited window of opportunity to begin your restart. You want to take only 34 hours off to reset your hours. You must start your break between 7 p.m. and 1 a.m. Starting any other time will mean you have to take more than 34 hours off. And we have an example here on the 34-hour reset. On this example, from day 1 to day 2, it only includes one period of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. So this is not a valid restart, because there has to be 2 periods of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. In this example, even though the driver was off for 34 hours, it is not a valid restart because it only had one period of 1 to 5 a.m. In the next example, this is a valid restart because he has the 2 periods of 1 to 5 a.m. This example is a valid restart. It does include 2 periods of 1 a.m. until 5 a.m. Keep both rules in mind. 1 restart per 168 hours, 7 days, and 2 periods of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. Is there any questions on the 34-hour reset? Does everyone understand that you're going to have to remember the 2 periods of 1 to 5, and you can only use it once in 168 hours?
Does it have to be 1 to 5? It can't be like from 3 to 7 or whatever?
No, it's got to include 2 periods of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. in your 34-hour.
See, that's why that one example wasn't really good. He started at 2, even though he was off 50 hours, he started at 2 a.m. So he didn't have 2 periods of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. So it's got to have those 2 periods of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. to be valid. You would still have the time off, but you couldn't count it as a restart.
But even if you have your 34 hours, like say we're here local at night.
It doesn't matter. You've got to have, if you want to restart your hours to 0, it's got to have those 2 periods of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. to be able to restart your hours to 0. Otherwise, it's not a valid restart.
Well, for example, like say I get done at 8 in the morning, and then I go on my days off. Then also, when I come back to my schedule, I'll come back at 10 o'clock after 8 a.m. or so.
If you've got the 2 periods of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. in that time, yeah, it won't be 34 hours, it'd be more than 34 hours. But you can count it as a restart. Okay, the problem that you gotta watch is if it hasn't been 7 days since your last restart, then you can't count it.
Well, we're on the 6 and 2, 6 on and 2 off. But really, it's
So we can restart.
And if you don't have 7 full days passed since your last restart, then you can't count it as a restart. You know, that's one of the things that's really going to change for you. Let's say you take a restart and you go out, maybe you work 4 or 5 days, maybe you work 14 hours a day, and you're up to maybe 60 hours or something in those days. And maybe you get stuck someplace for 2 days. If it hasn't been 7 days since you had a restart, you can't use that time to reset your hours. You're just gonna have to do a recap like we used to do, you know, before there was a 34-hour restart. You'll just have to recap your hours like that. But there has to be 168 hours, which is 7 full days past since your last restart, till you can do another. It's gonna be some big changes for you with your driving. It's,
We have to have more people
yeah,
because we have a lot of routes.
yeah, it's gonna make it more difficult, there's no doubt.
Yeah, it's gonna make you have to really pay attention to how many hours you have available, and you're gonna have to make sure your recap is current, so you know how many hours you're gonna gain.
Is it
Just
still
gonna have to
gonna
go
be at
back.
70 and 60 or?
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll still be a 70-hour, 8-day carrier, that won't change. It'll still be 70 hours.
Eso lo único bueno. Lo único bueno.
No, but at 5 AM, 1 to 5 AM.
100%.
No, but that's only on the restart.
Yeah.
The restart is still
Yeah, you still have the restart option, it's just they're putting limitations on how you can use it. So as long as you've got the 2 limitations, once every 7 days in 2 periods of 1 to 5 AM, you can restart your time. But if you don't have either one of those, then you can't restart yourself. You'll just have to keep track of your hours and make sure you've got time available.
Well, if you don't go over your 70 hours in, say if you work 7 or 8, 10 days straight, is it possible? Or do you have to take a break somewhere in
It'd
there?
be like before they had the 34-hour restart, where you just keep track of your hours every day. As long as you don't go over 70 hours.
Still, it's
You
still
won't
gonna be
have-
that rule as long as you
Yeah,
don't
you
go
won't
over
have a
70.
violation if you
Okay.
don't go over 70 hours.
Is there any more questions? Does everybody understand that pretty good? Okay, we'll go to the next change, which they are calling this a rest break. It's a mandatory rest break. Drivers of property-carrying vehicles are required to take a 30-minute break after 8 hours, either on duty or driving. You cannot drive a CMV if 8 or more hours have passed since the end of your last off-duty and/or sleeper berth period. Even if you don't drive during the first 8 hours of your day, you still cannot drive if you haven't had 30 minutes off in the past 8 hours. Anytime you are authorized to log 30 minutes as off-duty and/or sleeper berth, the break can be used to meet the requirement. This could be a lunch break, time spent in the sleeper while at a dock, or time spent in the passenger seat of a parked CMV. You cannot count on-duty time as a break. You must be logged off-duty. No matter how you spend your 30-minute break, it will count against your 14-hour window. Okay, here's our first example of the rest break. In this example, the driver did 2 hours of on-duty time. And he starts his day at 10 o'clock in the morning. So on-duty and driving counts in this period. So once 8 hours is up, you would have to take 30 minutes off. Well, he went and he started driving instead of doing his 30 minutes. So that will be a violation. Once 8 hours have passed, you've got to do a 30-minute break. So in this example, there